Back on the record, the time is now 12:48.
All right, Mr. Zahn, we had talked earlier about the first meeting you had with Mr. Nicolosi and Sidney Torres sometime in January, before lunch break. Do you recall at the council meeting, Mr. Melli standing up and saying that this was a backroom deal?
Yes.
And did you agree with him or disagree that this was a backroom deal?
I disagree with him and said that the backroom deal happened in my conference room that he referred to.
Okay.
So it wasn't too much of a backroom deal. It's a deal that, it's a discussion in a city hall building, not in a back room.
Okay. And so that first meeting that you testified about earlier today, Mr. Nicolosi was at that meeting, but you didn't invite him, correct?
It was invited by Greg Buson.
Correct. So you didn't invite him to that meeting?
Right.
All right. It's my understanding that there was a subsequent meeting in the mayor's conference room with Mr. Nicolosi, Mr. Rapier, perhaps Ms. Foshi, Ms. Roussel. Were you aware of that?
Was I there?
Well, first question is, were you aware of that meeting?
As you know, Mr. Nicolosi also serves on the aviation board, so I don't know if there's another meeting.
That's fine. Well, we can just, go ahead.
Can I clarify something also?
Sure.
Because I was thinking about this earlier, and I just looked at it. When you asked me about signing the contract on this, we talked about, I thought you were talking about the ordinance. I apologize. So I want to be clear on, I'm not sure that the contract was ever signed, rerouted to me by legal. I was looking at the ordinance when you were talking about the $1.90 amended.
Gotcha.
So I just, not saying I didn't, but I don't remember signing. I'm looking at this when you're asking me the question.
Gotcha. So over the lunch break, did you have any discussions with your counsel or anyone else from Kenner regarding the amendment to the Melli contract?
I had.
Form of the question. Don't say anything that we talked about.
You don't have to tell me the substance, but I'm entitled to know whether or not over lunch you talked to anybody about what you now just voluntarily offered as additional testimony.
I was thinking about what I did and what I didn't do, and when you said the contract, I had an issue. I thought you were talking about the ordinance that you were showing me.
So my question was, did you talk to anybody at lunch about that?
I had discussions with my attorney on lots of issues.
So after lunch and discussions with your attorney, your testimony is now is that you don't know if you signed the amendment to the Melli's
No,
contract?
I'm going to object to the
That's not what I
and
said.
don't wait, I'm instructing not to answer the question. He's
Yeah,
trying
that's
to
not what I
make
said.
sure the record's clear to tell you he was looking at the ordinance. He doesn't recall that. But you're not going to ask him what we talked about.
I didn't ask him.
You just did. You said his answers changed based on discussions that he had with me.
I didn't say based upon. I said after lunch and discussions with counsel.
Okay, after discussions with counsel. You're not. He's
That's a
giving
factual
testimony.
matter, Matt.
Well,
and
he
I'm
just answered.
entitled to ask this witness about his testimony, so please do not interrupt me.
Patrick, you're getting-
Make your objection for the record, but stop with the
I'm not going to stop,
speaking
Patrick. I'm not going to
objections.
stop doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to allow my client to talk about what we talked about.
Okay.
He's trying to be truthful and fair and accurate, and he's providing testimony that was
After
he has the
lu-
right to do it.
Now that you've had lunch and you've had discussions with your counsel, is your testimony now that you did or did not sign the amendment to Ramelli's contract, which is attached to Exhibit 32?
Just answer that question.
Yes, I have thought about this, and you asked about a contract, and this is an ordinance. I was looking at the ordinance. I was just trying to clarify it.
Did you sign the amendment, yes or no?
I don't remember. I answered your question before that this was the ordinance. I started off the conversation by saying I'm not for sure that the amendment has been signed. This has been signed. When you were asking me before, I thought you were talking about this.
So is it your
It's just a
understanding?
clarification.
Okay, so you believe you have the authority in the Kenner City Charter to not sign an amended contract that the City Council
Object to
approves an ordinance for?
the form of the question. It calls for a legal conclusion.
You can answer.
Refer to your legal department. If you know.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm
Okay.
saying is I misunderstood your question earlier, and I'm clarifying it.
Well, after you signed the ordinance, were you obligated to sign the amendment to Ramelli's contract?
Object to the form of the question. It calls for a legal conclusion
You
that
can
this
answer.
witness should not know how to answer.
If it was routed to me,
Whose job is it to route
the
amendments?
legal department.
As you sit here today, do you know whether or not the amended contract was routed to you by the legal department to execute the amendment to Ramelli's contract?
That's why I can't tell you for sure that I did it.
Okay. So getting back to the second meeting that you had that took place with Mr. Nicolosi regarding IV waste. I'm going to show you what was previously marked as Exhibit 47. This is an invite, and the subject is IV waste. So I think we're confident that this is not a meeting concerning something else Mr. Nicolosi had. This is an email Thursday, January 23rd from Mr. Rapier to Ms. Foshi, Ms. Roussel, and Nikki Nicolosi. And the third page is the invite, which references a Monday, January 27, 2020 meeting that was to take place in the mayor's conference room regarding IV waste.
Okay.
Now, I know you testified earlier you don't use email. So do you know whether or not you were invited to this meeting?
Am I on the list? Am I on the invite list?
You didn't receive it. They didn't send you.
Wait. He's asking. Patrick,
I don't-
let
I
him
gotta
answer
look.
the question. He's trying to find out if he's flipping through the pages to see
I
if he was
told
on the
him to
list.
start the question. He wasn't on the email, but he testified earlier he does not use email. So I'm asking if he was invited some other way to this
Just ask your
meeting.
question and give him time to check before he answers the question. He's flipping through pages.
Matt, you and I are going to have a conversation off the record right now. Let's go.
Okay.
Can we take a break?
Off the record, the time is now
wanna step out?
12:55. Back on the record, the time is now 1:06.
All right, Mayor Zahn, looking at Exhibit 47, which appears to be an invitation for a meeting in the mayor's conference room on January 27, 2020. You are not on the email. My question is do you know whether or not this meeting actually took place in your conference room?
Again, I'd have to go back to my calendar, have my secretary check the calendar. If there was a cancellation, that probably would have followed. Maybe not, but at this point, it looks like something happened in the conference room. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry about that. Want me to say that all over again?
No, I got it.
Okay.
So do you know whether this meeting occurred or not?
I just said I'm not, unless there's a cancellation that you have.
I don't have a cancellation. I'm not saying
Yeah,
that there's one not out there. I just don't know.
I'm assuming it happened.
You're assuming it happened. Okay. Do you know why Mr. Rapier was reaching out on January 23rd to have a meeting with Mr. Nicolosi about IV waste?
That would be a question for Ed Rapier.
So you don't know.
I'm not aware of it.
Now, after it's my understanding that by early February, there was a draft contract with IV Waste. Were you familiar with that?
It would have to be, because I know we voted on it right before the COVID restrictions came out.
I'm going to show you what was
They voted on it.
previously marked as Exhibit 48. Which is right here. That is a February 6, 2020 email from Ed Rapier,
Okay.
and it's titled Proposed Contract. The attachment is Solid Waste Collection Contract Version 1, dated 2/6/2020, and what appears to be a draft contract between the City of Kenner and IV Waste.
Okay.
You are emailed on this
I see that.
email. I also note that Mr. Nicolosi's on this email. Do you know why Mr. Nicolosi received the first draft of an IV Waste contract?
That would be a question for Mr. Rapier. He sent the email.
So you don't know.
I'm just CC'd.
So you don't know why Mr. Nicolosi was included on the email?
Correct.
Okay. And if you look in Section 6 of this agreement, 6.1, it's on page 32 of 55, if that helps.
Yeah. Okay, I got it.
It says that the city shall pay the contractor for the service work performed on subsequent the initial collection date. The the sum of $12.32 per service unit per month.
Okay.
Do you know how that amount, $12.32, got its way into the first draft proposed contract?
Again, I don't draw up the contract, so that'd be a question for Mr. Rapier, which led to numerous contracts being amended,
But at this
or the
point,
contract being amended.
But at this point, it was your position, regardless of what the rate was identified in the contract, that the city was not going to pay Ivy Waste more than its contract with Ramelli.
They were going to pay the people were going to pay the same.
No, I'm not talking about the people paying the same. I'm talking about the city of Kenner paying the vendor.
Correct. Yes.
So
No difference in the price.
So you understood whatever the rate was supposed to be, Ivy Waste rate for collecting garbage was supposed to be the same as Ramelli's contract rate.
Correct.
All right. Now, after some back and forth with the contracts, do you recall going around the city of Kenner and introducing Sidney Torres to various residents?
What's the time frame? Because he's
April of 2020, do you recall going around with Mr. Torres and Mr. Nicolosi and making videos of introducing him to the city of Kenner residents?
I think it was about how the garbage was getting. I don't think it was intros. I think it was more of, by the way, this is Sidney Torres, but Sidney Torres wants to tell you what he's doing to get it picked up, because that was during the debacle of picking up garbage cans, probably. I would assume.
Okay, let me see if
I'd have to see a video. I'd have to see.
Sure,
what we're talking about.
I have some videos for you. We had sent you these, Matt, this
I saw
morning.
them.
And this is when again?
Let's see if it's dated. These were videos, by the way, that the city of Kenner produced in this litigation. Well, do you recall the city of Kenner making videos with Sidney Torres?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. This
I just don't
taxpayer-
know what we have in there.
All right, so we're going to look at the video with Bates number 3954. Matt, do you want to come over here? You can access it on your...
I saw them all, but I'll
Okay. Have you... All right.
Yeah, it's Tony Ligi. Okay.
All right, so this is a video. Turn up the volume so you can hear it. So who's in the photo right now?
Sidney Torres, Tony Ligi, and Nikki Nicolosi.
I'm
Sorry. Sidney Torres, Tony Ligi, and Nikki Nicolosi. I remember this issue.
All right, what was this?
This was because there was a problem with garbage getting picked up on the street, and I believe I introduced him to his wife at first, and maybe the wife went inside, I'm not for sure, and then other residents walked up.
So this video was taken before or after Ivy Waste started picking up garbage?
Well, I don't know, I don't have total recall on the date. What's the date?
Hey, how you doing? How are you? Mike, good. How you doing? Yeah, like if you call the police, they don't know whether or not to put Jeff.
That's you, right? So who's doing the video?
Look, we're not going to say stuff in truck today.
I'm not sure. I don't know who was with me at the time. What's the date of this? Because they would. But we ran this on Kenner Media, correct? Is that how you got it?
You all produced it too.
I don't know if someone videoed us doing this, or if we ran this. If we ran this, then someone's videoing it. It could be someone who's with me. I don't know. It may be Chad Pitfield.
So who with the city of Kenner did these videos of you and Sidney Torres?
I don't know the date. I don't know. I think this is a Saturday or a Sunday.
I don't know. The videos were produced to me in the litigation.
Okay.
So,
But it was on Kenner Media
what is Kenner Media?
or our Facebook pages.
I don't know.
Okay. I don't know if someone. I don't know how to answer the question, except if we produced it and put it on Kenner Media, then probably someone with me that day was filming it, unless I was being filmed by someone, which has happened recently. I'm being filmed by someone without my knowledge.
Okay, well, City of Kenner produced this video,
Well,
so I would assume
that's why I asked you. I don't know. So City of Kenner produced this video on Facebook or somewhere. I guess I guess neither one of us know
why
about
was
it.
Nikki Nicolosi,
I
you
don't-
and Mr. Torres going around filming videos in the neighborhood?
I'm pretty sure Miss Leegee had a question about something with garbage not getting picked up. They live on Craig or Senac, which would be the last street in the city of Kenner, which is probably Craig. There were like 2 houses in Kenner at the edge of the canal. Right past Nikki and Sydney would be the canal. This is the last of the pickup area. Their garbage was probably not getting picked up by either us or IV, not for sure. So it was probably a service call to let them know that we were going to come out there with either a Kenner truck. I don't know the time. So if he can't pick up a Romelli garbage can, it's us having to come out there. If this last house in the city of Kenner is being missed, it's because it's not on the route. There's always been, as a former parish councilman, I can tell you, total issues, and the discrepancy is you don't know if it's in, I know it is, but most people don't know if it's in Kenner or Metairie. The police department has that issue. Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office has that issue. Who calls the service? The fire department, Jefferson Parish, Kenner Fire Department. Goes the same thing for IV Waste or either our trucks.
So
Who
this
picks it
was
up?
a service call you were making?
Well, it's to let the people, yeah, as the mayor of Kenner, I actually go out and talk to people. So as I'm talking to people to say, here, now we know. If Sydney's with me, it's probably IV's garbage can sitting out there.
And so my question was, why is Nikki Nicolosi with
don't-
you and Sydney?
He's in my truck with me.
Well, he's in the video. Didn't you just see him right here?
Yeah,
It's
but that doesn't mean he's
basically-
with me.
Oh, so you was
It's
just...
it's a private piece of property and a public street.
So do you recall just accidentally bumping into Nikki when making this video?
Maybe Nikki was already there. I don't know. Maybe Nikki was already there at the Leegee residence. Maybe Nikki was with IV. I don't believe he was with me unless there's video that shows he was. Again, we don't know the time frame of when this happened.
So as you sit here today, you don't recall making videos with Nick Nicolosi and Sydney Torres?
I'm not saying that.
So you do?
I don't know.
Wait. You are arguing. Let him finish his answer.
That's fine.
He's trying to explain.
If we're talking about this video, it doesn't look like I made a video with Nikki Nicolosi. It looks like I made a video with Sydney Torres, either by one of the people that work for me or somebody hiding in the bushes. I don't
Okay.
know.
But in general, not this video, but in general, do you have no recollection of making videos with
I-
Sydney Torres and Nick Nicolosi?
Check this one question.
Yeah, I don't remember if Nikki Nicolosi is in any video, but the time frame is going to be important, and I keep asking, what is the time frame of this?
I don't know the time frame, but let's start from the beginning. Would you agree with me that that's a picture of Nick Nicolosi
Yes.
in this video?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's in this video. And do you agree that you're in this video?
Yes.
That's you? Mm-hmm. Okay. But you're not comfortable in saying that this is a video that you made with Nikki Nicolosi and Sydney Torres?
First of all, there's someone filming it. I'm not so sure we made the video.
Okay, we'll play it through.
Okay, that's
And-
fine.
And
I
Sydney
don't know.
Torres is going to say at the end that the city of Kenner is making this video.
Okay, then
So-
that would have helped.
It's always been crazy. Hey, how you doing? How are you? Mike, are good.
Sure.
Yeah, like if you call the police, they don't know whether or not to put Jefferson.
Mike up, Jody.
You heard what he said?
Crazy. Look,
He just said what I just said.
today, but they'll be out here tomorrow morning to pick you up, but that he knows. Yeah, no worries. I figured we could change over.
Don't bring it all in.
No, just leave it out. We got the
Leave it out.
recycling bin yesterday, so we're good to
Beautiful.
go on that.
Beautiful, and in that truck, you'll see a separate truck coming behind, but the garbage will be in the morning,
Okay.
and then the recycling truck will be there in the evening, so I'm glad you got it, but you didn't get your garbage bin.
Nah,
Okay, so I'm glad Ben took me down this way because of the fact that this is odd in that how it cuts across. Now on the map, if you go on our website, you
did.
can see where it's colored,
Yeah.
but it's not 100% on where it's purple. So I'm gonna get with the can guy. I think we need to get with them when we get back to the yard. Yeah, and make sure they push it. Yeah, because it's tricky. I mean, the way.
So let me stop you right there. It looked like Sydney Torres told Nikki, when we get back, we need to do something, and then you walked over and started talking to Nikki about it too.
Am I talking to Nikki or Tony?
I'm just
I don't
asking.
know. I don't know.
Are you going to admit this? Is this an exhibit?
It's in the production. I can't
Well, can we
attach it.
pause real quick? I just want to make sure.
I'm talking about, for the record,
Wait. Just the record, we're talking about a video, how are we gonna identify?
I identified it at the start with the Bates number that you produced
Can
it.
you send it and attach it as an exhibit?
You know what we can do? I will attach as an exhibit a photograph.
I want the whole video. Is there a way?
You produced the video.
And attach the video as.
I can, if I have the Bates number, I can produce the video back to you directly if we want it for purposes of the record.
We can mark this as an exhibit.
Yep.
I'm going to mark, just to help with that, as Exhibit 71, 2 screenshots from this video that we're watching, which was,
And Liz is gonna send the video to court reporter as Exhibit 71 to this actual video.
and it's Bates stamped 3954, and that's how it was produced to us.
Okay.
So my question is what, it appears from this video, would you agree that IV has taken over picking up
That's the form of
garbage?
the question.
I'd like to know a date.
Okay. Well,
If this was on Kenna TV, it's not hard to find a date.
okay.
But obviously,
When they went to the
All right, so-
I was going to finish the question. What I said before, that constituent just verified, because I answered his question there and I didn't realize it. The police have an issue, and so does the sheriff's office, and that's what the constituent says. So we're there, as I obviously had total recall, we're there because Sidney Torres, it wasn't the Bob Romelli, it wasn't a Romelli waste can, it was Sidney Torres missed the garbage can. So that's why we're there.
All right.
It's a constituent complaint that we're responding to.
Okay. And Nikki Nicolosi was with you responding to a constituent
He's not,
complaint?
not so sure he's with me unless there's video that shows we are together. I don't know. I could be with Chad Pitfield. I'm with someone who's taken the video.
Oh, so you think Nikki Nicolosi just appeared in this video?
I'm not saying that. This is more of a question for Nikki Nicolosi or Ivy Waste. What I'm saying, unless I'm with Nikki, and you're going to refresh my memory with that, at this point you have not refreshed my memory. I'm physically with Nikki. And I walked over and I spoke to Tony Legia. You said I walked over and spoke to Nikki Nicolosi. Nikki's leaning against a truck that obviously belongs to Tony.
Do you know what Nikki was doing there that day when
That's-
you were speaking to Mr.
That's a question for Nikki and Sydney. I'm speaking to the constituent, and I'm saying on a constituent complaint.
So how did you get there to handle the constituent?
Maybe I'm with them. I don't know. I may be with them. I'm not so sure.
Okay. All right.
That's very possible. I'm not sure. Either I'm with the Kenner Media people, or I'm with someone else there. I might be with Sydney. I don't know.
All right. And just going back over there. Going to the end of the same video.
So I'm gonna get with the can guys. We need to get with them.
So you heard Mr. Torres right there said, Nikki, we got to get with the cans, can guys.
Okay.
What role did Nikki Nicolosi have with Sidney Torres's cans?
Check to the form of the question.
Yeah,
If you
it's
know.
a question. I don't know. I'm not sure at this point what's. I know the constituent complaint while I'm there. A question for Nikki and Sydney is what's going on at that point, and what's the date of this?
Because it's tricky. I mean,
Looks like you're talking to Nikki. That doesn't look like you're talking to Nikki?
Looks like I'm talking to Tony and Nikki's next to it, but I'm not so sure. I don't know. Again, how long ago was this? It wasn't yesterday, was it?
Now I'm going to show you.
Patrick, before you go on, just for clarification, the Bates number you gave me, is that the prefix, the CK_ESI?
No,
Does not, okay.
it does not.
Thank you.
All right, now I'm going to show you another video, which was Bates stamped in the production of 3956. And I've got some screenshots that I'll put the Exhibit 6 or 72 on so we know which video we're looking at. Do you recall those photos that are in 72?
That's the same day. We're all dressed the same way.
Okay.
This is in Palm Vista. I can tell you whose house I was in front of. It was Bridget Roy. And she had a similar issue. Not, oh, I don't believe the can had been delivered yet. I believe that was her issue, but it's the same day.
That's good.
We were making house calls.
That's got the one dated with date stamp 3956, right?
Wait, I don't have my glasses, Patrick. You want to look at it?
Yep, 3956. So we're gonna watch the video. Now.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna get it for him. Good. Hey, how you doing? Take my dance to the left.
That's Bridget.
Okay, all right. No, not me. That's the city doing that. I don't want people to think I'm doing it. Do you mind? Do you mind?
Okay. So in this video, Bates stamped 3956, Mr. Torres says that he's not doing the video, the city of Kenner is. Does this refresh your recollection that you were the city of Kenner was making these videos?
Well, yeah, and I said that earlier. I'm not so sure it's me doing it or someone filming us, but obviously we're making the videos. I didn't know what video you had until you played the whole thing.
Fair enough.
And I think I've been
Mr.
very clear what
Nicolosi is in
constituent
this
on that.
video that the city of Kenner prepared too, right? What was Mr. Nicolosi doing in this video?
You continue to ask me questions on Nikki Nicolosi and Sidney Torres. I'm there handling Tony Aligi and Bridget Roy at this point, constituent complaints. That is my job. There's a new vendor in town, and the new vendor is either missed a house at the end of Kenner, or I believe she did not have a garbage can yet. I'm not for sure. I guess if we played it, we'll find out what the complaint is.
I'm not interested in the complaint. I'm interested in what you...
I'm interested in justifying my existence there.
Sidney Torres and Nikki Nicolosi were doing together in this video.
Right, I think I've said what I'm there for.
You don't know why they're there?
I know why Sidney Torres is there. I think the question that you want is Nikki Nicolosi or Sidney Torres' answer.
Well, why is Nikki Nicolosi in a city-created video?
Well, I don't know why is Bridget Roy and Tony Aligi in it?
So you can't tell me why Nikki Nicolosi
I mean,
is
he's
in
a
this video.
constituent of the city of
I'm
Kenner.
just trying to get a...
I don't know how to answer the question except...
Fair enough.
Right.
Okay. Do you recall also making videos to alert the public about the days that Sidney Torres would be picking up garbage?
I've made a lot of videos since I'm mayor.
All right.
Okay, here we go.
Looking at this video, which is stamped
This was a...
3922, and I'm going to identify that with a sticker on Exhibit 73.
I can tell you where we are and what the event is.
Okay, great. Tell me what depicted in Exhibit 73.
So this is the day that he was feeding the first responders on Loyola, right by Kenner City Park. The truck is parked in Kenner City Park, and I said, let's do a video while you're here. Either it was planned to do it, or I said it that day. Not for sure on that, but it was important to do the video.
And what is the video about?
Well, I'm not that good, Patrick. You'd have to play it for me. I make a lot of videos. I can
Okay.
tell you where I'm at with a video.
So you just know from the parking lot where you are that this was the day of a
Well,
first responder?
I think I've told you a good bit where I'm at and what I'm doing.
So, but you're confident that this was at a first responder lunch?
I'm pretty sure it was for first responders or, well, first responders.
We're going to play it through.
It's either the fire department. Look, we had a lot of people come out during COVID. This is during COVID. We had people come out and feed the firemen. We had people come out and feed the police. We had people come out and feed the public works employees, all the field crews. We had people come out, and not just Sidney, people come out and actually do stuff with mask giveaways with us to the general public. So I don't believe this is a mask giveaway. I believe this is a first responder food giveaway.
Okay.
I believe.
So, have you seen this video today?
I mean,
In
well, I haven't
preparation
seen
for your
it.
deposition?
I haven't seen it today.
You haven't seen it today? In preparation of your deposition?
No,
Okay.
you're about to show it to me, though.
You got it. All right, I'll play it, I'll let it run through, and then I'll ask you some questions.
Tuesday, Friday, Monday, what? Julie? Tuesday?
But I don't think this is the video we played.
Alright.
This is the prep of the video.
Right, these are some outtakes.
Okay, all right.
So, somebody just said quiet on the set. Was there a set? There was a film crew set up for this?
I'm assuming Kenner Media's there.
Okay. Who runs Kenner Media?
At that time, it would have been, it's now Chris Fortunata. At that time, it would have been, who would have been at that time? Bob Ross? I hate to say that for sure. I'm trying to go back.
Do you recall whether or not Nikki Nicolosi was at the filming of this commercial?
I don't recall that. I'm not saying he's not.
To answer some questions about what's going on with the garbage cans from IV, look, they're going. Let's start over. Let's start over. This is not. Yeah, this is not. All right.
To address some questions the citizens have had.
Right.
Who's that talking?
Whenever you're ready.
I have no. I can't hear it. This might be Sydney's.
Okay.
This
Tell me if
may
this-
not be. This may be a film crew. I don't know.
Tell me if the voice talking right now is Nikki
Okay.
Nicolosi.
All right.
Saturday,
I'm gonna start the other way.
It sounds like it.
Friday, and Tuesday.
Okay.
Saturday and Wednesday.
So what is Nikki Nicolosi doing at a film and a video with you and Sidney Torres, telling Sidney Torres and you the days of pickup?
Well, I think I said before.
You can answer.
I think I said before. It's a public park. It's Kansas City. It's the dog park. It's not. It's Kansas City Park with dog park right behind us.
So you think Nikki just walked up on you all film?
I'm not
video
saying
and
that.
there?
I'm not saying
So
that.
what was Nikki doing there?
You're asking me questions that are probably aimed at Nikki Nicolosi or Sidney Torres.
So you can't tell me what Nikki was doing there?
Well, you're asking me what is he doing at a public park?
Specifically, what is he doing giving Sidney Torres instructions in a video that you made with Sidney Torres up for Kenner TV?
Object to the form of the question called speculation.
Is he giving directions to me?
He's about to.
Okay.
Let's watch it through.
Monday and Thursday.
Right, but I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna do Friday, Tuesday, Monday and Thursday, and then the rest follows, right? Yeah,
I guess that would work.
yeah,
We're starting off on
Friday, yeah, Friday, Tuesday.
So, did you hear Nikki say right there, we're starting off on Friday?
Mhm.
What was he talking about?
Object to the form of the question called speculation.
I'm assuming he's talking about the garbage pickup. Again, I don't know the time frame on this. Is this before May 1st when he started?
They're talking about when they're going to start pickups, so I
Right,
assume
okay.
it's before.
Okay.
So I just heard Nikki Nicolosi, that was his that was his voice, right?
It sounded like it.
And he said, we're starting on Friday. What involvement did Nikki Nicolosi have with IV Waste picking up on Friday in the city of Kenner?
I mean, on this issue, I guess it's a question for Sydney and Nikki.
So you didn't know what he was there for?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he's not in a video. He's telling Sidney Torres, or me, I guess, you're saying me, the date that it starts to pick up.
The whole video.
I mean, I'd like to see the whole thing,
We're
so,
starting off delivering in Friday and Tuesday's route.
That was the end of this outtake.
okay, so Sydney just told me, for sure, I believe Nikki, if it's Nikki, sounds like him, but I don't see him on video. If it's Nikki speaking, Nikki's telling Sydney something. Now, if I'm catching it, I didn't know it was an issue for me to catch what he's saying, but obviously it's coming from me, it's coming from Sidney Torres. You just played that for me, so I appreciate that because you're fresh in my memory on that.
So, does that refresh your recollection as to what Nikki Nicolosi was doing at the location for the video of this?
I guess he knows some of the road. And he's, like I said, it's a public park.
Did you invite him to this?
I don't remember. Look, I speak to Nikki quite often. I'm not so sure that I did or did not.
Do you know whether or not Nikki was traveling around with Sidney Torres?
Patrick, you're asking me things that, look, I'm responsible for 70,000 people in the city of Kenner. This is not, and also other vendors.
This was in May during COVID. Was the park open to the public?
Any parks were, trying to think about the dog park, was it closed or not? I'd have to go back and ask them that. People still did walk. The park does not have a gate, so it's not Lafayette Park where you lock it down and tell them to stay out. It's not a gymnasium with a lock on the door. The park is open all the time. We don't tell people not to walk around a public park.
So we've just seen 3 videos.
The dog park has a gate.
We've just seen 3 videos with you and Sidney Torres in them, right?
Mhm.
And in 2 of the 3 videos, Nikki Nicolosi, you can see he's there in the video, right?
Mhm.
And
Well, no.
the third one, you could hear his voice.
Right, okay.
And as you sit here today, you don't recall how Nikki got together with you and Mr. Torres when those videos were made.
I don't think it's my job to get together with who's coming to the video. I think it's important that when I'm taking someone who's obviously filming at the first 2, that if Nikki's there, if Nikki's with Sydney, if Nikki's with me, I'm not for sure who he's with and who he's not with. But I'm not saying this is Nikki Nicolosi working for IV Waste. And you're asking me questions that should probably be for Nikki and IV Waste, unless there's something else. I mean,
Is Nikki working for the city of Kenner on these days these videos were
no,
filmed?
no. He doesn't get paid by the city of Kenner.
Was he giving advice to the city of Kenner on these days?
Well, I think when we started this deposition, I said that we rely on Nikki for garbage issues.
So were you relying on Nikki in these days to help with the videos?
It looks like Sydney was.
Do you know why Sydney was relying on Nikki?
Object to the former question.
I don't believe Nikki was working for Barbara most of the time.
So you don't know why?
I would think, just like my issue, someone who can tell me about the garbage issues.
There's another video. This is date stamped 3950. I'll play it and let you comment on it.
Good.
Do you know who that is?
You worked for a long time, man.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
What's your
very
first name?
much.
Peter.
Peter.
Becky.
No, this is on, I believe this is on David Drive,
For a
though.
long time, and
This is
remember
David.
you went through there.
I'm sorry. I believe it's on David Drive.
Yeah, it was,
I don't know this constituent by name, but I know he had an issue.
It really made a difference when.
Or we may be picking up
Everybody was looking for
loose
something
material.
positive, you know? And where did you work in the board?
Not so sure.
Marriott Hotel in Grand
Okay.
Street.
Wow. So you were right in the heart of it. You retired?
Yes, I'm retired.
Nice. How do y'all feel about us picking up your garbage?
We're excited.
I'm excited about
Very
it.
Good.
excited.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm just as excited as you guys. We're so honored to be able to be out here and helping out and getting it picked up and cleaned up.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad to, for a nice little breath of fresh air, baby, you know?
Yeah, and the difference is that, like, I'm out here all the time with them, I'll be working with them, so if there's an issue, we deal with it, and, the team this morning was so excited to be and come out and go, just like in the French Quarter, when we started the French
Yeah.
Quarter. And, that goes back to, and they always say this, it's just like pets, it's how you treat your pets, or how you treat your children. Do they want to come hang out at the house on the weekends? And it's like with all of my team, we all hang out, we go to eat, we do things fun,
That's good.
we do barbecues, and we show them that we appreciate them. They're not just somebody in the back of a garbage truck,
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference, right?
Yeah.
So they
That's
always
awesome.
they
That's
always
so
come
good.
back, yep, and they enjoy it. So, but we feel that this is a perfect time for us to be in the city, and we think that we'll be able to do a really good job for you guys.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Sure it will be, too.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Great.
Nice to meet
Thank
you,
you.
too.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, so it sounded like, would you agree with me that this video was taken when Sidney Torres started picking up the garbage?
Object to the former question.
Because he said we're picking up the garbage?
Yeah, right.
And so at the start of this video, correct me if I'm wrong, it's you, Mr. Torres, and Mr. Nicolosi walking up to the house.
How you doing? Good.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fan of yours?
So what were you 3 doing there together for this call?
That's what I tell you. This is either on David Drive, backing up the power. There was a garbage issue or loose debris sitting outside. I can't remember. There was one like this here, and you probably have it. There's another one in Holly Heights. I think it's Holly Heights. I think that's what it was. So that's what we're there for, one of those issues. I don't have total recall on this one. I don't know this constituent by name, but he was outside and wanted to speak to Sidney Torres.
And do you have any recall of why on this day, in the start of the video, you, Sidney Torres, and Nikki Nicolosi are walking together?
Well, again, we're all dressed the same from the first 2 or 3 videos, 2 videos with making house calls, and obviously he's still with us.
Okay, so for these videos, you call them house calls you were making?
Well, look, constituent complaints are like going to the constituent and going to their house and either answering their complaint, trying to help them as much as possible, or relieving them of their complaint. I'd call it a house call, a mayor's house call, not a doctor's house call.
So
It's making sure the constituents are happy.
is your recollection refreshed now that for these house calls that you were making in the start of May of 2020, you made them actually with Sidney Torres and Nick Nicolosi?
I'm making them with the vendor, Sidney Torres.
So the start of this video,
That might actually be Highly Heights, I'm sorry.
the start of this video, you're closer to Nick than you are Sidney, right?
It looks like Sidney's walking a lot quicker.
So did you not show up at this house call with Nick Nicolosi?
I tell you that originally, I don't know who I'm with. I'm either with Kenna Media, I'm either with Sidney Torres, or if Nikki's there, I could be with Nikki. I could have been in a few cars, a few trucks that day. I'm not sure.
Fair enough, you're not sure. Okay.
I don't know.
Now, do you recall that you entered into several different contracts with IV Waste over the course of litigation? I'm done with these at this point.
Yes.
Okay. And it was your position, was it not, before you executed any of the IV Waste contracts, that each one of them reflected the same contract rate as what was provided for in Mr. Romelli's contract?
Yes.
And as you sit here today, do you acknowledge that you were wrong?
Object to the form of the question.
I acknowledge that there was a disconnect between the CFO and the city attorney's office.
How so?
Just what you just said. You want me to say that I was wrong. I will say that what was presented to the council by the legal department, and as you see, most of them are drafts that I see, what was presented to the council by the legal department and the disconnect with the CFO at the time is why there was at least 3, if not 4, changes. And you probably know better than me. It might only be 3.
Okay. So the first contract that you entered into with IV Waste, it's attached as Exhibit 49, to Exhibit 49, and it's got a date of March 23, 2020 on the footer. And I think if you look at the last page, you can confirm that that's the date you executed the contract.
March 21st or 29th, I can't tell, or 27th. March 23rd, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So if you look for me, what's the exhibit number again?
49.
49. If you look on page 31 of 52 of the contract,
Okay.
the service fee that you agreed to pay IV Waste was $11.96. Is that
Okay.
correct?
In this contract?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And before you entered into this contract in March of 2020, didn't you tell the city council and the public that the rate that was in this contract was going to be the same rate that was provided for in Mr. Romelli's contract?
Mm-hmm.
Mayor, you got to say yes.
Yes, I'm sorry.
And did that turn out to be true? That $11.96 was the same rate that was provided for in Mr. Romelli's contract?
Object to the form of the question.
No.
Okay. So what it turned out is the rate you agreed to pay Ivy Waste was higher than the rate that was provided for in Mr. Romelli's contract.
Object to the form of the question.
According to this contract, not according to the billing. Yes.
Well, according to Judge Steib, you know who Judge Steib is?
Yes.
You consider him a respected member
Yes.
of the 24th Judicial District Court?
Yes.
Are you aware that he concluded that this contract had a higher rate than what was in the Romelli contract?
Yes.
Do you dispute that?
No.
Okay. So then, I take it you admit that you were wrong when you told the constituents of Kenner that this contract that you entered into with Ivy Waste was going to be the same rate as Mr. Romelli's contract?
Object to the form of the question.
That's why it was amended, yes.
Okay. And it was amended how many times was it amended?
That's what I said before, either 3 or 4. Oh, voted on 3 or 4 times, so either amended twice or 3 times.
Do you know
It would depend on how many times it was voted on.
why did it take so many times to figure out what the rate was that was provided for in Mr. Romelli's contract?
That's what I said, a disconnect between the legal department and the CFO at the time.
Who do you think was in error?
Object to the form of the question.
I'm not going to sit here and judge the people that work for me, but I mean, since that time, neither one of those individuals work for us.
So then, do you have a problem, since they don't work for you any longer, telling me
I'm
who
not.
you think made the error?
I think
Asked and
it's,
answered.
yeah, I think it's between the disconnect between the legal department and the CFO at the time, the finance department. We have 2 new individuals in those positions.
Now, if you look in Exhibit 49 on page 31, actually page 32, I apologize.
Okay.
Section 6.3.2 says the city shall pay the contractor the additional sum of $1.90 per service unit per month if the city issues a notice to contractor to proceed with one or more of the supplementary services prior to the 5th anniversary of the commencement of the contract term. That's what you agreed to pay Ivy Waste for recycling, is that correct?
Yes.
And was that the same rate that you had agreed to pay Mr. Romelli for recycling services?
I think you gave it to me before, to make sure. I think there's $1.90 in here. I don't see it in here, but yes, that was what you presented to me earlier.
So you were accurate when it dealt with recycling and Ivy Waste contract for the rate. It was the same rate, $1.90, as you had, that was provided for in Mr. Romelli's contract for recycling.
Finance and legal were accurate on that.
How did you become aware that the rate provided in your initial contract with Ivy Waste was more than the rate that was provided for Mr. Romelli's contract?
I believe Mr. Romelli raised it at that council meeting when the council was about to vote on the IV contract for the first time. And we immediately at that council meeting started digging into it. And we saw the disconnect between legal and the finance department, and obviously that's why the First Amendment came out.
So that first contract was the one I think we looked at earlier in the day.
Is this the second one, 49?
Yeah, that's the second one. The one that was
46? No.
No, probably that one.
Draft, here it is.
The one that
48.
Yeah, 48.
Makes sense.
48 was the one that was presented to the council at the March 5 meeting.
I thought it was a little bit later than that, but if you say March the 5th, I know it was March. That's right, because the COVID reaction started around March 13th or 15th, so they wouldn't have been in time for another March meeting.
And look at that first contract that you sought authority from the city council to enter into. That had a rate of $12.32. Confirm for me.
What page was that?
31.
Is that the number you gave me before?
Yes.
And that, yes.
That's the page number that I gave you before.
No, the $12 you just said.
Yeah. So let's make sure we're on
34,
the same.
okay.
It's 32.
32?
Page 32 it should be. 6.1.
1232.
1232. So the first contract proposed contract you had with Ivy Waste was a rate of $12.32.
Okay.
And you believe that that was the same rate that Mr. Romelli had in his contract?
It was presented to the administration, yes.
And that's the council meeting that Mr. Romelli stood up and said, hey, that's not my rate.
Right.
And so after that, what role did you have in going back to try to figure out what actually the rate was for Mr. Romelli's contract?
Well, I believe Deborah Foshee jumped on that at the council meeting, like I just said, but she was the person that jumped on it, got CFO and the legal department together immediately at that council meeting, but immediately also, and I think at that council meeting, we actually also explained our situation, that there was a billing issue on Romelli's end. So yes, it is more, but it's because of a billing issue. We immediately responded, and I guess it's for the March meeting, where we took care of that at the March 3rd meeting.
And you went down to $11.96.
Actually, this might have been after the March 3rd meeting. Yes.
Correct.
This is part of the March 3rd meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
So you went from $12.32 down to $11.96. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it turned out the $11.96 was higher than Mr. Romelli's rate too.
The disconnect was still alive.
Okay. And so it changed again, and ultimately it was changed in the June contract with Ivy Waste.
Yeah. You're getting into Zoom meetings now, so I'm a little bit more, I'd have to know those correct time frame on that.
The billing issue, you said you came to become aware of at the council meeting concerned Mr. Romelli's bills to the city?
Well, when Mr. Romelli brought the issue up, and he brought a chart with him, and the chart actually was a little off, but yet also did show that it's more, we realized that the billing was an issue on his end, but yet the contract would reflect the previous contract.
Okay. And in other words, you realized that Mr. Romelli was underbilling the city?
Underbilling the city, right.
Okay. So then did you become aware that Mr. Romelli submitted a bill to the city for the unbilled CPI adjustment?
Yeah, I believe we addressed that, yes.
So you were aware of his invoice? Is that correct?
Yes.
Everybody remember the number? There it is. I'm going to show you what was previously marked as Exhibit 39,
Okay.
which was a June 25, 2020 email from a Romelli Waste to Deborah Foshee
Okay.
with an attached invoice.
All right.
Were you aware that Mr. Romelli invoiced the city for the amounts that he had underbilled.
Yes.
Did you take issue with the amounts he claimed he was owed for unbilled CPI?
I believe we didn't take issue with it, but like anything, finance had to make sure it was correct.
Okay. Who in finance confirmed that that was correct?
I would assume it was Mike Wetzel at the time.
I deposed Liz Herring yesterday. She's the head of finance now.
Right.
And she confirmed that she didn't have a copy of that invoice in the finance department.
Okay.
Do you know why?
Well, like her, and that's why I said Mike Wetzel, that would be a question, I guess, for Mike Wetzel.
It's my understanding Mr. Wetzel no longer works for the city of Kenner.
I said that before, yes.
So who else do I need to talk to find out why Mr. Romelli's invoice for unbilled CPI was not in the billing department,
Well,
the finance department?
It went to, you said it went to Deborah Foshee, and I would assume that it went from Deborah Foshee to the legal department to finance.
And as you sit here today, do you believe that the city of Kenner has paid that invoice that's in it? Exhibit, what number?
39.
Do you believe the city's paid that invoice?
Yes.
All right. What's the basis of that belief?
Should I take one other question?
I
Can you
believe-
answer?
Yeah, I believe this was part of the federal court issue, part of the settlement.
Explain that to me.
your microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Look, I'm not the attorney here, but what I was under the impression of, and what I was told, was that he was asking for his 204, 481, 18, and that was paid, the money that we owed him was paid in that settlement.
Okay.
Not part of the settlement, but not the issue, but part in the settlement.
It's my understanding that Mr. Rapier, he made a presentation to the city council to get authority to enter into a settlement agreement for the federal litigation.
Yeah.
Were you aware of that?
Well, yeah, it was, I mean, you going back to Zoom meetings again, now that you say that, I remember that.
So
Yes.
you were involved in that meeting?
If it was a Zoom meeting, yes. Every council meeting.
Are you aware that Mr. Romelli insisted that the settlement of the federal case not involve and not affect his claim in this case for the CPI adjustment?
That would have been something the attorneys were handling, and I think that was on Zoom also, between the attorneys and also the client.
So do you have any knowledge of that?
No. I don't know about him asking for that.
Well, do you know about Mr. Romelli insisting that he was not going to settle the federal court case unless the city of Kenner removed a reference on the check that they wrote him that said it was for CPI adjustment?
I
Check
don't
the
know.
form of the question.
You're not aware of that?
I don't know those particulars.
Have you ever heard anything like that?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Well, let me see if I can refresh your recollection. Show you a check that was previously marked as Exhibit 41.
Okay. All right.
It's a check to Romelli Janitorial with your signature. It's my understanding that's an electronic signature?
They're electronic. Sometimes I sign them by hand, but this looks like electronic.
Okay.
Without seeing the original, it's kind of hard.
You've seen the original.
Without seeing the
Oh,
original.
gotcha. Fair enough. Well, do you recall?
What's the date of this, Patrick?
It's dated January
8th,
8,
okay.
2021.
Gotcha.
Do you recall signing that physical check to settle the federal
No,
case?
I can't say I did or I didn't. It looks electronic. If I don't see the original, I can't really tell you.
So up at the top, there's a reference that says GM prior year CPI adjustment settlement.
Okay.
Were you not aware that Mr. Romelli refused to accept this check and actually returned it to the city of Kenner because he said he was not going to be releasing his claim for CPI adjustment?
I remember.
Objection asked and answered.
I remember something about the issue, but why is this 215? This amount is 215. I thought we were talking about 204. I'm gonna look.
I
I'm gonna
agree.
make sure we're talking about the same thing.
They're completely different, in my opinion.
That's not a question. That's a
Right.
comment.
So you don't believe that the $215 check, $215,000 check right there was to pay that invoice?
Objection, that completely mischaracterizes it.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm asking, before I answer any more questions on this, you're talking about 204 that he's objecting to at CPI. You just gave me a check that electronically signed, more than likely, for 215. So I'm a little cautious when answering the questions when it's two different amounts. Maybe you can clear it up for me.
I'm going to show you what was previously marked as Exhibit 42, which is a January 12, 2021 letter.
Mayor, what's this exhibit, the invoice?
So the invoice is
39.
39?
Yeah, 39. The check for 215 is 41. What is this, Patrick? A check for another exhibit, 42, for another check for 215, electronically signed. No, I'm sorry. It's the same check that's voided.
How do you
I
know
don't-
that?
It says void right there. This one says void. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Okay, it's the same. Two different checks.
Two different checks.
Yeah, okay.
42, up at the top, doesn't reference CPI adjustment. Now it references payment per contract.
Okay.
Is it your testimony that you believe that this check, Exhibit 42, for $215,000, was for the payment for the unbilled CPI, that invoice number 39, or was this a payment to settle the federal lawsuit?
Objection's been asked and answered.
Yeah.
You can
it
answer.
is. He didn't like what the memo said on this one. So obviously another check was issued, and it was for the contract. But what he was underbilling us for, if that's what you're asking me.
You think that's what it was for?
I'm a little concerned that it's 215 instead of 204, but
I'm going to show you what I'm going to mark as an Exhibit 74, which is an email between me and the City of Kenner's Council,
okay.
and ask you to read it and ask me if you are aware of this.
So this is from you to Matthew, okay. Okay.
Fair question.
Yeah.
Object to the use of, I don't think the mayor's on any of these emails.
I say in my email to your lawyer, between the time the first check was issued and the second check that we just looked at, that we do not agree that the payment is for CPI adjustment, and we are not releasing any claims for CPI adjustment.
Okay.
As a result, we will need another check cut to Romelli where the stub does not reference CPI adjustment.
Okay.
So my question to you is did you know before you signed the second settlement check that it was Romelli's position that it did not cover its claim for a CPI adjustment that it hadn't billed for?
Patrick, I'm object. This has been asked and answered. He's not on these emails, and you're arguing and you're presenting one side of the argument. So I think you've answered the question.
I'm aware that it says payment per contract. So obviously it's the money that we owed him in reference to the CPI adjustment that he did not bill for. So it's a play on words, Patrick, as far as I'm concerned. Y'all didn't like the word CPI. Nobody objected to payment per contract. It doesn't say settlement. I don't know what else to say.
So it's your position, Mayor, that a check for $215,000 was actually written to Romelli to pay Exhibit 39, the invoice?
Well,
Objection. It's been asked and answered. You
yeah,
answered the
I've said
question.
that
It's not gonna
before.
change.
So that's before. So you believe that's the check was to pay that invoice?
it's a portion of it because there's an extra balance here, and that's what I'm trying to figure what that's for.
Okay. So where did you come to the understanding that this check, Exhibit 42, was to pay that invoice, Exhibit 39?
From the legal-
And let me, if there's any conversations between you and Ed.
It is. It is.
Then-
That's what I was getting ready to say, and I can't
Attorney-client
say that. Okay.
So other than conversations with Ed Rapier, you don't have any other information to support your
No.
belief that Exhibit 472 was to pay Romelli's invoice, Exhibit 39?
I'm going to object. That's not what he said. But
That's not right, exactly. It's my discussions with Ed Rapier that my attorney's telling me I cannot discuss with you.
Other than discussions with Ed Rapier, you've had no other knowledge or information to support your belief that check Exhibit number 42 was issued to pay invoice Exhibit number 39?
Jeff,
I don't-
You're asking for an opinion from a fact witness.
Yeah, I don't recall any other conversations with anyone else.
That's
if
all I
what
was
you're
asking for.
Okay.
That's all I was asking for. Now, can you do me a favor? Tell me what the invoice number is for Romelli. Invoice.
You gotta excuse me, because I can't see it all. 1440,
Invoice 1440?
that's what it looks like.
Tell me what the invoice number is reflected on Exhibit 42, which is the city's check that you believe, based upon only conversations
No.
with Ed Rapier, was to pay that invoice,
don't-
1440.
I'm going to object again to mischaracterizing the testimony. You can give the invoice number.
Yeah, what we have is 268459, which looks like it's two more numbers than what Romelli uses.
So you'd agree with me, the invoice number reflected on the $215,000 check does not match Romelli's invoice number for the unbilled CPI?
Well, I brought it before, the amounts didn't match, but it also doesn't match the sequence numbers that they would use.
And were you not made aware that settlement of the federal lawsuit, specifically Romelli reserved all its rights for its claims in this litigation for the unbilled CPI?
Object to the form of the question again if it has anything to
Yeah,
do
it's
with
discussions with Ed and I.
So that's your only source of information. And I'm not looking for what you and Mr. Rapier talked about.
I got you.
So other than conversations with Mr. Rapier, you don't have any other understanding?
That's to my, what I recall is a discussion.
Have you seen the settlement agreement in the federal court case?
I mean, Mr. Rapier handled that, no.
I want to ask you about criminal actions that were instituted against my client by the city of Kenner. The first one I want to ask you about is the litter citations. What was your role in the issuance of the litter citations to Bob Romelli?
It's a discussion between myself and Mr. Rapier.
Okay. Did you not discuss the litter citations with anyone other than Mr. Rapier?
I mean, if there's a staff member included, I don't recall, but I would think it'd be between myself and only Ed Rapier.
Have you seen the deposition of Ray Hefner?
Who's Ray Hefner?
Ray Hefner is the city Kenner employee that signed the litter citations.
Okay. Code enforcement.
Yes.
Okay.
So you haven't seen his deposition?
No.
Were you aware he was deposed in the federal lawsuit that was brought against you?
No, I wouldn't know that.
I'm going to mark, it's previously marked as Nicolosi 27. I'm going to show you a copy of it. That's my highlighted one. Here, use this one for the record. That'll just,
Okay.
these
You
were
want this
issued.
one?
Sure,
That?
well,
Okay.
nothing's highlighted on, just the date.
All right.
These litter citations were executed by Mr. Hefner on May 12. Do you know where he was when he executed these?
Mr. Hefner?
Yes.
I would assume the legal department.
Mr. Hefner's testimony was he signed these at the El Paso restaurant in Kenner.
Okay, so
wait. He said he's not aware of the test. If I'm going to ask him about testimony, show him the deposition.
Do you recall being at the El Paso restaurant on May 12, 2020, where Mr. Hefner sat down with you and Ed Rapier and other Kenner officials and filled out these litter citations?
Object to the form of the question, and I maintain my previous objection that this has nothing to do at all with this lawsuit, and this has been resolved in federal court laws.
So do I answer this or what? Because I don't recall this.
If you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah, okay, I don't remember this.
Okay.
Now, could I have been at the El Paso restaurant with Ed Rapier? That's possible, but he sat with me or Ed Rapier? I'm asking. I don't remember.
If you don't
this.
recall, I'm not asking you to.
I had to ask you who Ray Hefner was. I mean, I don't.
I understand you don't recall him, and I'm not asking you to speculate.
Okay. All right, I'm not going to speculate.
So is it safe to say the only thing you can remember about these litter citations were that you had discussions with Ed Rapier?
That's what I recall.
Other than that, you don't recall anything else?
I don't recall that.
Now, in addition to, well, let me ask you this. After the litter citations were issued, do you recall Mr. Romelli demanding that the city retract the litter citations?
That would have been something that went to Ed Rapier. I don't remember him telling me that exactly.
Okay, so you don't have any recollection?
I don't remember that. I mean, there was a lot going on at this time. This is May of 20?
Yes, sir. I apologize. I was looking for something, but I might not have it. Do you recall that Judge Malazzo in the federal court case issued an order and reasons on the preliminary injunction and prevented you for the city from going forward with the litter citation?
Right.
I'm going to read you a quote from Judge Malazzo, and I'd like your comment on it. She stated in her opinion on page 17, "The facts of this case resemble a blueprint for a retaliatory bad faith prosecution. That which looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck will be treated as a duck, even though some would insist upon calling it a chicken." Accordingly, plaintiffs had discharged their burden of demonstrating that retaliation was a major motivating factor and played a prominent role in the decision to prosecute. What role did you play in the decision to prosecute Mr. Romelli for the litter citation?
Check to the form of the question.
It was a discussion with my legal department.
So Mr. Rapier was the only person responsible at Kenner for the prosecution?
That's not what he said.
That's not what I said at all.
So you were involved in the prosecution?
Objection, that's not what he said.
Who else was involved besides Mr. Rapier in the prosecution of the litter citation?
Well, obviously, the employee, Ray.
All right. Anybody else?
Not to my knowledge. You're asking me for stuff that I don't oversee.
So
I don't oversee the everyday work of the legal department and also the code enforcement that handles this, or the court, mayor's court.
Do you agree with Judge Malazzo that Mr. Romelli was retaliated against and prosecuted by the city of Kenner improperly?
Object to the form of the question.
I mean, you want me to disagree with the judge? I have my own personal opinion as the mayor of the city of Kenner. I'm not going to sit here and question a judge's comments. I just know that when I'm in this position to get garbage off the street and litter, which is what it is becoming, it's my job to get the litter off the street, not question the judge's comments.
And so it's your position that the litter citations were issued to make Mr. Romelli take the garbage off the streets?
It's
Object to
litter.
the form of the question.
It's litter on the streets. If you litter, usually you get fined. So the garbage became litter.
And you thought Mr. Romelli was responsible for picking up that garbage?
Someone has to answer for the litter. It wasn't IV on myself. It was garbage that was left behind. It's litter.
You are aware that Mr. Romelli is not responsible for the garbage in his cans until he picks up the can, right?
That would have been an issue for the legal department at the time. The legal department felt differently.
So that's something Mr. Rapier would be responsible for?
Again, I'm not blaming people that aren't here, but I'm just saying that they saw it as litter.
So do you take any responsibility for the prosecution of Mr. Romelli for litter citations?
Object to the form of the question.
Take responsibility for keeping my streets clean.
That's not really what I asked, but...
Well, that's what I said. That's what I take responsibility for.
So you don't take responsibility for what Judge Malazzo found to be a bad faith prosecution of Mr. Romelli?
Object to the form of the question.
You can answer.
It's not what he said.
Right, exactly. I think the judge ruled the way she saw fit, and she saw that it was retaliation. I, as the mayor of the city of Kenner, see that it's keeping my streets clean. It's litter.
For the record, is that the TRO ordered reasons or the preliminary injunction?
Preliminary injunction.
So it wasn't the permanent injunction. It wasn't the full trial on the merits. It's preliminary, right?
It was briefed, yes.
Okay, all right.
All right, I want to talk to you about a second attempted prosecution, criminal prosecution of my client.
Okay.
What role did you have in reporting my client to the U.S. attorney for committing fraud that you claimed on the city of Kenner?
Object to the form of the question.
Yeah, I don't. The legal department reported him to the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Well, if you don't know, don't guess.
Yeah, I don't.
You're not responsible for that. Do you recall giving an interview with WWL on TV?
Mm-hmm.
And do you recall you did that right before there was going to be a vote on whether or not the city council was going to go forward with your third attempt to do a legal contract with IV Waste?
I don't know the time frame you have to tell me. I do recall the WWL interview.
Okay. what do you recall saying in that WWL interview about alleged fraud that my client had committed on the city of Kenner?
I'd have to, do you have it?
I do have it, but
Okay.
before we
No,
go
no,
over-
no, no.
Yeah.
If you want to watch it, ask him to play the video.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to see the whole, what,
You got it.
let me see what I said.
For the record, this was a WWL video that aired June 3rd, 2020.
And wait, before you start,
Yep.
can you tell him when the vote was for the third contract?
The council meeting for the last IV contract took place the next day. What a coincidence.
June 4th?
June 4th. So the day before you asked the city council to approve the third IV waste contract, do you recall airing meeting with WWL and giving an interview to air the night before?
Just ask him to play the video.
Yeah, I told you before, I acknowledge this WWL interview.
So it was just a coincidence?
I asked about the time frame.
As you sit here today, you think it was just a coincidence that it ran the night before the city council meeting?
If you pay extra money for recycling, you may have wondered, how do I know that paper and plastic's really getting recycled? Eyewitness investigator David Hammer looked into that and other issues with Kenner's longtime garbage contractor and found evidence that has city officials and others frying foul.
Gregory Howard is a lead garbage truck driver for IV Waste in Kenner. Before IV took over Kenner's garbage services last month, Howard was a route supervisor for the previous garbage hauler, Romelli Janitorial Services.
I'll ride around Kenner, Jefferson Parish, and Harahan to make sure all the routes and everything is getting done correctly.
After leaving Romelli, Howard's new boss, IV Waste owner Sidney Torres, asked him to sign a sworn affidavit with some explosive allegations, and IV's attorney turned it over to the city of Kenner. In the statement, Howard alleges he was directed to take Kenner residents' recycling, dump it on the Romelli yard in Kenner, then mix it with garbage and haul it off to the River Birch landfill across the river.
The recycling might still need your 3 weeks. So much. And what happened was they'll take the Bobcat and put so much on the garbage truck. Mix it with the garbage, send it to the field.
Earl Sylvester also signed an affidavit after taking a job with IV Waste. He worked for Romelli for 15 years. He said he tried to complain to his bosses about the way they handled recycling to no avail.
That's how y'all want it? That's fine, but I knew it was wrong.
You knew it was wrong?
Yeah, because we out there for 5-6 hours getting it recycled and then throwing it away.
Howard says taxpayer money is being thrown away too. Kenner City records show that in 2019, taxpayers paid Romelli an extra $271,128 to take their recycling to a recycling center. Howard says that rarely happened.
They decided to mix it and still keep the money. That's not very professional at all.
Kenner Mayor Ben Zahn says it's more than just unprofessional.
You want to talk about fraud, that's probably more than just fraud.
Do you know if there's a criminal investigation involved?
I can tell you this, we've done our part on what we need to do to make sure that the right authorities are looking at it.
Zahn recently hired...
I'm going to stop it right there just to ask you some questions about what you said, and then we can watch the rest of it. So you were aware on June 4th, June 3rd, when this aired, that you all, the city of Kenner, had alerted officials of what you claimed to be alleged fraud by Mr. Romelli.
I didn't say the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Well, who did you understand the authorities it was sent to?
The legal department was handling that. That's what I started off this conversation with. The legal department was doing what they had to do to make sure it was reported correctly. As far as I'm concerned, the legal department was my authority.
So you didn't...
I didn't say anything except that.
So when you were referring to the authorities, who were you referring to?
I'm referring to my legal department is handling that. What the legal department did with it is up to the legal department.
Okay, I'm just going to play it back just so I understand what you're
that's-
saying.
I hope so.
Great.
Criminal investigation involved? I can tell you this, we've done our part on what we need to do to make sure that the right authorities are looking at it.
All right, so you're saying you've done what you need to do for your legal department to look at it?
I gave it to my legal department for them to handle. What the legal department did with it, I moved on. I'm going by what the city of Kenner is going by what 2 former employees said. I never said, unless there's something else you're going to play, I think I said, this looks like fraud, or something like that. You can go back
Right.
and
My
see what I
question is
said.
about the authorities. You were unaware... Yeah, I'm sorry. You were unaware that the city attorney for the city of Kenner wrote the U.S. Attorney, Paul Connick,
Okay.
the Chief of Police of Kenner, and the FBI on May 2nd. I'm going to show you a letter that I'm going to mark as Exhibit 75, and I
Okay.
should take a look at that.
Object to it. Talk about it, you were unaware. I don't think you're asking
All
a
right.
question.
Well, read it and tell me whether or not you've ever seen this letter before.
There was a lot of discussion with this matter. I can't say I saw this letter, but there was a discussion with the legal department that they would take care of it with the correct authorities. As far as I'm concerned, I'd let the legal department take care of it. It's not signed off by me. It's signed off by Ed Rapier.
That's not your name on the top of the first page?
Yes, but it's City of Kenner letterhead, City Attorney's Office, Office of the City Attorney.
So it's your testimony that before today you've never seen this letter, May 2nd?
That's what I said. That's not what I said.
Okay. So when was the first time you saw this May 2nd, 2020 letter?
I've heard that the legal department was taking care of it with the proper authorities. I'm not saying that I did or did not see this letter. You're going back, over a year ago, asking me, did I see this letter? I saw a lot of things on the Romelli issue and other issues. This is something the legal department was handling. Cannot say if I've seen that letter, like I've seen other letters, but there was a discussion that they would handle it with the proper authorities, and that's what I said on that video.
Okay. Who did you understand with the proper authorities when you gave this interview for WWL?
The legal department handling it whatever they saw fit. And this is obviously what the legal department did.
Are you responsible for Mr. Rapier
Let me finish that question.
submitting information on behalf of the city of Kenner to federal officials?
I'm responsible, and so is 8 other elected officials in the city of Kenner. At the time, he worked for non-elected officials in the city of Kenner.
He says in this letter, Exhibit 75, in the last paragraph on the first page, we have been told by second and third-hand information that while Romelli was charging Kenner for a recycling program, Romelli was not recycling much, if anything, but was taking the recyclables straight to the landfill. What information did you have on whether or not Romelli was taking recyclables straight to the landfill?
Wait, you asking, you didn't send this letter.
I know.
You talking about generally speaking?
Generally speaking, your counsel for the city says he has no first-hand information, he has second and third-hand information. I'm asking you, did you have any first-hand, second-hand, third-hand information?
I didn't write the letter.
One of the questions never made a complaint.
Right.
So you had no independent information on your own about Mr. Romelli's company taking recyclable to the landfill?
No.
Okay. So why on the video do you tell Mr. Hammer that you think it's alleged fraud by Mr. Romelli when you had no information?
That's the form of the question. If it has anything to do with discussions with Ed Raper or the city attorney or anything like that, I'm sure you're not the interest attorney-client.
Okay.
I'm asking you why you told Mr. Hammer for a WWL interview that my client had committed fraud when you just admitted you had no first-hand knowledge of that.
Same objection, not
You can answer.
No, if it has anything, you can't answer. I'm instructing you not to answer if it's attorney-client communication.
It can't be attorney-client communication. He just mentioned it on
Then I'm
TV
asking
to the
now.
reporter.
He's repeating what his attorney had told him, is what I think he's trying to tell you, that he investigated.
Come on.
If it's between you and if it's conversations that you have with your attorneys, it's attorney-client communication, you can say, that's the information I had, if that's what it is. If there's anything else,
No, that's the conversations I had, and I said, either I say it or he says it, alleged.
So you weren't saying you were alleging that he committed fraud. You were
Did I
saying
say it?
somebody else
Look,
alleged it.
You'd have to go back and play it.
There's a criminal investigation involved? I can tell you this, we've done our part on what we need to do to make sure that the right authorities are looking at it.
Zahn recently hired Torres' company, or Ben Zahn says it's more than just unprofessional.
And you want to talk about fraud, that's probably more than just fraud. Do you know if there's a criminal investigation involved? I can tell you this, we've done our part on what we need to do to make sure that the right authorities are looking at it.
Zahn recently hired Torres' company, IV Waste, in a no-bid deal to take over residential garbage collection from Ramelli. Ramelli sued IV Waste and the city of Kenner, alleging backroom dealing. Zahn has blasted Ramelli for failing to deliver on various promises and cited owner Bob Ramelli for 22,000 separate litter violations. In a federal lawsuit, Ramelli says it met all of its contractual obligations and accused Zahn of abuse of power. But Zahn didn't say anything about the recycling until we asked about it.
But aren't they supposed to provide you with the receipts for delivering the recycling? Absolutely, and that's what made us suspicious when you're asking for those receipts and you're not getting them.
City emails show the city attorney started asking Ramelli for recycling receipts on May 6th, the day after Howard and Sylvester signed their affidavits. Ramelli's attorney responded by email accusing the city attorney of bullying and said the company didn't need to turn over the receipts. Sylvester says the losers in all of this are Kenner's 22,000 households.
And these people take their time and sort all this splatter out, wash them out and everything, they throw it away. I don't think that was fair.
And it's not just Ramelli's recycling that's raising questions. Kenner City records show that taxpayers have been paying Ramelli $1,000 a month to service a dumpster at Highway Park. But the only dumpster we found was this one belonging to River Parish Disposal. River Parish tells me it's been paid by a private foundation to service this dumpster since August 2018. That's when Kenner turned Highway Park back over to the Parish School Board. But city records show Kenner was still paying Ramelli for that location 21 months later, for a total of about $21,000 since August 2018. Kenner Parks and Rec Director Chad Pitfield audited the dumpsters in December and said Ramelli's invoices listed 4 other dumpsters at public parks at Buddy Lawson, Galatas, Rosemary Minor, and Westgate, where he found no dumpsters at all.
He's taking that from the taxpayers is what it comes to at the end of the day.
Instead of $1,000 a month for each dumpster, the city's now paying IV Waste about $100 a month. That's just one reason why Zahn hopes the Kenner City Council will ratify the IV Waste contract at a meeting Thursday. David Hammer, Eyewitness News.
We sent Bob Ramelli and his firm's attorneys several questions about the recycling and those dumpsters. General Counsel Michael Thomas said they would not be able to respond because of the pending lawsuits.
So it looks like there were several other things in this WWL report. One was dumpsters. Were you involved in reporting to WWL about problems with Mr. Ramelli's invoices concerning dumpsters?
You asked me things that the legal department may have done, or the finance department in discussions the legal department may have done. It says that Chad Pitfield uncovered a list of dumpsters that may or may not have been picked up by Bob Ramelli. It looks like we were paying Bob Ramelli for a dumpster that was no longer Bob Ramelli's dumpster, but yet River Parish, so there was some internal work that we had to accomplish.
And
can't remember specifically what you're asking for.
Okay. Are you aware that prior to this interview, Ramelli had done an audit and submitted revised billings to the city of Kenner for the dumpsters?
That would have gone to finance.
So I'm going to show you what was previously marked as Exhibit 60.
Okay.
Were you unaware that weeks before you aired this interview, or this report aired on WWL, where you were discussing dumpster irregularities in Romelli's bills, that Romelli had submitted a revised, updated bill to the city.
I don't believe I'm discussing dumpsters at all. I believe it veers off and David Hammer takes it and starts walking around dumpsters. I believe the clip they played back of me was not talking about dumpsters.
Okay.
How did
Mr. Hammer get the info
I mean,
about... How do you get the info about Kenner's audit of the dumpsters?
Something for legal to answer or finance.
Okay.
Or Chad Pitfield, I'm sorry, Chad was doing the audit of the dumpsters.
It didn't come from you?
I don't recall that.
So-
The dumpster issue popped up after when we watched the David Hammer interview, from my knowledge.
What about the letters, like, to me that were in that interview? Do you know how David Hammer got those?
You'd have to ask the legal department.
Fair enough. Now...
Are those between you and Ed Rapier?
They were the... Yes. Yeah.
And that answers that question.
In the letter that we looked at that Mr. Rapier wrote to the authorities, Exhibit 75, he said that he had second and third-hand information that Romelli was taking the recycling and going to the landfill with it.
Okay.
And in the video we just saw with WWL, you alleged that that was fraud, correct?
Check the form of the question. It's not what he alleged. There's a sound bite on the whole interview that mischaracterizes everything going on.
That's correct.
You didn't say fraud in that video?
That's not what I was... How do we know that's what I was speaking of? We'd have to play it back again for that question. I thought we were past that.
Possibly fraud.
Right.
I don't think he said possibly.
No, he does.
Let's see.
Unprofessional.
And you want to talk about fraud, that's probably more than just fraud.
I'm sorry, you didn't say it was possibly fraud. You said it was more than fraud.
Probably.
Probably more than fraud.
Okay, so what basis did you have for your statement that Mr. Romelli had committed fraud, or probably more than fraud, in bringing recyclable materials to the landfill?
Objection, asked and answered, and he's already said that's attorney-client communication. I'm instructed him not to answer. He's already answered it based on a privilege that we maintain.
Fair enough. After this aired, and after the city council approved a new contract with Ivy Waste, did you get Romelli's recycled tickets? Did the city of Kenner get it?
That would have gone to legal or finance.
Have you seen the recycled tickets that Romelli produced to the city to show the recycling that it recycled for the city of Kenner?
That would have, again, that would have gone to finance or legal, or both of them.
So you haven't seen Romelli's recycled tickets?
Again, I've seen many things on a Romelli issue.
Okay, well, let me see if I can refresh your recollection as to whether this was something you have seen or not. I'm going to show you what I'm going to mark as Exhibit 76, which is a series of monthly reports.
You didn't disagree with me, but I'm objecting. There's no relevance whatsoever to breach of contract.
Okay.
That's all I have to say. Are these supposed to be the tickets?
I'm sorry.
Are these the ticket packets?
Yeah, I don't know what this is.
So you've never seen Exhibit 76?
I've never seen this. I don't even know what this is.
Fair enough.
Did this come with something?
Yeah. Try to save trees, so I didn't bring it for every month.
Okay.
But we'll look at January 20.
I can tell you this, we've done our part on what we need to do to make sure that the right...
I'll show you what I'm going to mark as Exhibit 77 and ask you to see if you've seen that before.
I'm just going through each one. I don't know what else is in here. It's all the same ticket, inbound scale. This would not make it to the mayor's
Right,
office.
so you haven't seen Exhibit 77.
No.
But you realize that these are
Inbound scales.
inbound
or-
scales at recycle facility for Ramelli. I'll represent to you that this is Ramelli's receipts for recycling for the month of January 2020 that have been provided to the city of Canton.
Okay.
So if I'm right, they reflect that Ramelli for the month of January 2020 submitted 66.98 tons of recycling to recycle facility.
Okay.
Okay? I want to ask you, how does that compare with the amount of recycling that Sydney Torres and IV Waste is providing the city with tickets for their recycling?
Yeah, that would be a question now for finance.
Okay, well, I'm going to show you what was previously marked as Exhibit 61. Actually, you know what? Show you which was previously produced as Exhibit 62. This was produced by the City of Kenner, and this is the monthly totals for IV Waste for recycling for 2020.
Okay.
So it appears, according to this, for May of 2020, Sydney IV Waste represented the City of Kenner that they had taken 64.61 tons of recycling to the city to a recycle facility.
Okay.
That I note is fairly consistent with what Ramelli did in January of 2020 that you just looked at in the prior exhibit. But in June of 2020, it goes down to 42 tons. Do you know why the recycling went down for June?
This is not a thing that we oversee as the mayor's office.
Well, you did oversee the opening of a drop site facility for the city of Kenner in June of 2020, didn't you?
Well, we talk about recycling.
Yeah, we're
Right.
talking about recycling.
Okay.
So you did oversee a drop-off site in June of 2020 for the city of Kenner.
When you say oversee, what do you show up to do an announcement of it? I mean,
Yeah, did you do an announcement?
Of course.
Of course. So let's look at the announcement.
Patrick, do you have a Bates number on that one?
It's online.
It's online?
YouTube, Kenner. It's dated June 19, 2020, and it's online. I'm going to play this and let you watch it
Mike
first.
Blazer and our Kenner City Council. I'm very happy to announce Kenner's first drop-off site is now open. IV Waste started 2 months ago and already made this free service a reality here in our city. This will be open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Friday through Sunday, and signs with the rules are posted. Sydney will explain the company's investment in the site and the rules for the City of Kenner's residents. I want to thank Sydney for what you've done along with IV Waste, making this a reality here, giving it back to our residents. It's very important to me, like I said, our chief and our council. Again, thank you and your company.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd like to thank the council, and I'd also like to thank the city of Kenner and the residents for allowing us to serve you. We are very proud to serve you, and we're honored to put that Kenner crest on the side of our trucks every day to come and serve you guys. So I want to tell you a little bit about the drop site. You must have a Kenner address on your driver's license or a Kenner address on your water bill. Residential trash and debris only, no tires, automotive fluids, oil filters, e-waste batteries, or waste cooking oil. You must be a Kenner resident and you can dump for free. And there's no commercial debris allowed at the site. You must be a resident cleaning out your yard, cleaning out your garage, but it's not like you can go do a job somewhere and then come here and dump. So anyway, thank you, Mayor, for letting me share the rules.
Thank you. And Sydney, we've gotten estimates before that on our bill, the taxpayers' bill, the City of Kenner, it would be close to $1 million to do something like this, a facility like this. Can you please share how much you actually invested on your dollar, not the taxpayers?
Well, this is the thing. I'm a general contractor by trade, so I know what it takes to build a site. And because I had to pay for it, Mayor, I made sure that we budgeted right, and we ended up investing around $300,000 to build the site, and we built it in 30 days.
And I think that shows a lot, that it's no cost to the taxpayers. It's what we've been talking about before. You've delivered on numerous things. We'll be showcasing other things that you've done for the city of Kenner. We appreciate that. And things like this is what keeps us Kenner proud. So thanks to people like you for helping us.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks to the residents of Kenner.
All right, do you recall making that video on June 19th?
Yes.
All right, and that was for the opening of the drop site.
I'm not saying it opened that day. It may have been opened already, or we were just doing a follow-up, or it was open the next day.
You said at the beginning of that video that this was a free service for the citizens of Kenner.
The drop-off site, when I think I cleared it up at the end.
What do you mean you cleaned it up at the
I
end?
cleared it up at the end.
What did you mean?
He paid for it.
So the construction of it was free to the citizens of Kenner.
I mean, I had to go back and see what I exactly said, but I mean, I think I was very, very clear that we did not pay the $1 million that was also told to us in the past.
And who told you that it was $1 million?
That would go back to Public Works. I think it was a former estimate by a former mayor.
Now, while Mr. Torres might have paid for the construction of the drop site, the services he provides at the drop site are not free to the citizens of Kenner, are they?
It would be, and the contract would outline that.
So
you're asking for something that's in the contract. I'd have to go back and review that.
So you're unaware, as you sit here today, that IV Waste is charging you, the city of Kenner, to take what's dropped at the drop site to either a C&D facility or a landfill?
I'm not saying that. It's whatever's in the contract.
So you realize, as you sit here today, that Sidney Torres and IV Waste is charging the city of Kenner for dumping what is dumped at the drop site?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So it's, while he might have paid for the construction, the service of him removing items that are dropped there by residents is a service that the citizens of Kenner are paying for.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know approximately how much a month the city's paying IV Waste for dumping the drop site?
That would be a finance question.
So the answer is no?
No.
Okay. In any event, looking back at Exhibit 62, the month that the drop site opened, the recycling for IV Waste went down by 50%. Or, no, I apologize, by 22 tons, a little more than that.
Right.
Okay. Do you know why that went down that month?
No.
Okay. The next month, July of 2020, IV Waste only had 4.83 tons of recycling. Do you know why it went down that much?
I do not know.
Do you know whether or not, did you know that IV Waste is getting lots and lots of recycling that they're bringing to the River Birch landfill?
No.
So as you sit here today, you weren't aware that IV Waste was taking a majority of the recycling that the city of Kenner residents put in their containers, and he's dumping it at the River Birch landfill.
Check the form of question, call for speculation. He said he did.
You can answer.
No.
All right. I'm going to show you what was previously marked and produced to me by the city of Kenner as Exhibit 64. This is an October 2020 Recycle Monthly Report that references 60.1 tons of recycling that was allegedly contaminated, and 15.49 tons of recycling that actually went to a single stream MRF facility. So it appears that for the month of October, IV Waste took only 15 of 75 tons of recycling to a recycle facility. The other 60 tons it took to the landfill.
Question.
Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of it, but I think it's got contaminated recycle.
Okay. So you always understood that contaminated recycling would have to go to the landfill?
Yeah. Bob had said that in the past.
Okay. So before you did your WWL interview where you alleged Mr. Romelli had committed fraud in dumping recycling material in the landfill. What did you do to investigate, determine that the recycling they were talking about was not contaminated recycling versus uncontaminated?
Objection, it mischaracterizes what was on the video and what he said. And it's the same privilege based on you and your attorney's communications who is handling it. I'm instructing not to handle it.
I asked him what investigation he did. If he didn't do any,
Well,
then he can answer.
we've been
I didn't do
testified
anything.
for 50 minutes now on this completely irrelevant issue that his city's attorney's office was handling it, and he said the communications were between him and the city attorney. So if it's the same privilege, then it's the same privilege.
Did you do any investigation whether or not the recycling that Mr. Romelli was taking to the landfill was contaminated or not?
If it was between you and your attorney.
It's
then
between me and the attorney.
So you personally, outside of Ed Rapier, didn't do any investigation?
He's testified, Patrick, that the city attorney's office is tasked with that. That's what he said on the video. That's what he has said today. So you're trying to limit him to make it look like he didn't do anything. Well, he has an entire city department's office that he has testified for an hour now that that's what they were doing.
Has anyone in your entire city department's office, City of Kenner Department, alerted you to how IV Waste is conducting its pickup operations for recycling today in the city of Kenner?
Objection is completely irrelevant.
You're asking me if there's an issue with the way they're doing it.
No, I'm asking you, do you know how they're doing it?
What's the process of how they pick it up?
Yes. How they pick it up and ultimately get it to a recycle facility, which is required in your contract.
My understanding is that's what they're doing.
So what is your understanding of the process that IV Waste is conducting in Kenner to pick up recycling and get it to a facility?
There's a recycling truck that's not a garbage truck. Goes to the roll-off containers and roll-off carts in front of the constituent's home. It's put into that vehicle and it's brought to the recycling center.
Okay.
Or drop-off site.
So that's how I understood Mr. Romelli picked up recycling. The recycle truck went to everybody's house, they dumped the recycling in it, and then they took that to a recycle facility. And that's how you believe IV Waste is picking up recycling today in the city of Kenner?
Yes.
Okay. Has no one with the city alerted you to the fact that IV Waste is dumping all of the recycled material that they pick up from the homes on the city of Kenner's drop site behind the gates, stacking the recycling in 30 and 40 yard roll-off containers and taking it to the Jefferson Parish landfill?
I'm not so sure that's not the contaminated materials. I don't know. That's something we'd have to look at.
Well, did you understand that recycled materials are being dropped at the drop site by IV Waste?
Right. You're asking me for something I'm not aware of. You're telling me that for the first time.
Okay, so you're unaware of it. Who would be the person at the city of Kenner that I need to...
Commenting, you're testifying, and making assumptions. You haven't seen anything today. Unless if you have something in your box that's full of documents, show it to me.
You want to see a video of an IV Waste truck dumping your recycling in the River Birch landfill? Is that what you want to see?
I mean, if that's what you have.
Yeah, I got that.
Is it contaminated recycles?
No, this is my investigation.
So you haven't produced it in Discovery?
I have not produced it in
I
Discovery.
would object to the use of a video that you haven't produced to us today. Until today, we haven't even seen it. Was this given? Wait. Was this sent to me earlier?
Nope.
Wait.
This is
Pause
not...
it. For the record, this wasn't sent. You sent me a bunch of links.
Correct.
40 minutes before the deposition.
Correct.
And it said, I'll get my phone and read the email, what it said. This wasn't on there?
This got on my computer this morning.
Okay, all right. Let's just put this into the record.
Put it in the record.
This is the same exact stuff we've been fighting about every deposition. I just want, for the record to be clear, who's your assistant?
Andy Abramson.
Time. So at 9:35 this morning, I received an email from Andy Abramson that said, "Hi Matt, the following link contains some of the video files that Patrick may use today with the mayor." And it contained a link. This was not part of that. Right?
Yeah, that's the email Andy sent
Right,
you.
but this video is not included in
I
this
told
one.
you that. I got
So you're
this on my...
blindsided, okay, and you haven't produced it in Discovery. All right.
This is not my client's document. This is something I've obtained.
You can look at the video, but he's not going to answer any questions.
Call me an investigator.
All that recycling, yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. Hello,
Just for the record, we have no idea who took this video, when it was taken, what truck that is, where that was, whose thing that was. But just so the record's clear, I got a video from your staff this morning on videos you were going to use today, and this wasn't one of them. And now you're trying to trick me to answer questions.
I'm not trying to trick you. I'm asking this witness...
He's not answering questions about this video. You haven't produced a Discovery, nor did you send it to me
Okay,
this morning.
that's fine. You don't have to answer questions on the video.
Did it dump?
I don't know if it's done, but
Are you aware of Ivy Waste accepting recycling material for any other locales other than the city of Kenner?
check the form.
I don't know. I mean, he does work for, you showed me St. Bernard, and it's been discussed before.
Probably the end of the day.
Huh?
A couple more hours.
How many more?
Maybe 5. We may get you the game.
No, are you going to get to anything that has to do with this case? The breach and everything? I mean, we're showing videos of that stuff.
You want to take a break? Is that
Yeah, I
what
want to
you're
take
saying?
a...
Sure, that's fine. We can take a break. Okay.
Going off the record, the time is now 2:56. Back on the record, the time is now 3:05.
So Mayor Zahn, when we took the break, we were talking about Ivy Waste dumping contaminated recycling at the Riverbirch landfill. Or at least I was asking you questions about that. And I'm going to show you what was previously marked as Exhibit 45, which is a series of December 2020 IV waste invoices to the city of Kenner. Now, I take it you're not responsible for reviewing invoices.
It goes to the CFO.
Have you seen these invoices before?
No.
Okay. I've reviewed them, and I just want to go over with them to make sure we both have the same understanding.
All right.
So it looks like page 1 is an invoice for curbside municipal recyclable waste for 22,615 units at a rate of $11.80 per service unit for $266,000.
Okay.
$857. This is the money that is provided for in the June contract between the city and Ivy Waste. It's Exhibit 44. You have a copy of that in front of you?
Hold on. 62. I think
It looks like this. We can see if we can get you one. Here we go. Here's one.
All right. Okay.
That was the, and
I got that.
just so we're on the same page, that's the final contract you entered into with Ivy Waste
Contract.
after.
Okay, I don't have that one. Okay. I got you.
And confirm for me if you will, but that contract provides a service rate of, well, let's see.
You know the page number?
It's probably 31 or 32. 31. Actually, so this one provides $11.28, but I'd represent to you that the month after this, July,
Okay.
the CPI increased it up to $11.80, and that's what's reflected
One
on
here.
this invoice.
All right. I got you.
So the first invoice is for residential recycling. The second one is for curbside recycling.
Okay.
And so IV Waste is charging the city $1.90 per service unit to pick up and dispose of recycling. Correct?
Yes.
All right. And in looking at that contract you have, Exhibit 44, look at page 20.
Okay.
In particular, section 4B2, and just, you might want to go confirm for for yourself on the page before. 4B is a section on drop-off site.
Okay.
But 4B2 talks about hauling and disposal requirements. And it says that the contractor shall be solely responsible for all costs associated with the collection, removal, and hauling of all solid waste and recycled materials collected at the drop-off site.
Mm-hmm.
Is that your understanding of the contract?
Yes.
So for the $1.90 per service unit, IB Waste is responsible for getting rid of all the recycling for the city of Kenner.
This line of question is relevancy.
Is that your understanding?
I'm reading it just to make sure.
Sure.
Removal, hauling, and solid waste, recycled materials at drop-off site. Yes.
Okay. So the next page
On the invoice?
on the invoices is $12,000 for street sweeping.
Okay.
I've been through the contract and I don't see where street sweeping is identified. What is this street sweeping for that IB Waste is doing for the city?
Object to the form of the question.
I mean, it's self-explanatory, street sweeping. It's sweeping, it's got a street sweeper that goes up and down the streets if we need it. You're dealing with December of last year, okay?
So it's my understanding that IB Waste is actually charging the city of Kenner every month for street sweeping. Were you aware of that?
Yeah, it just, yes.
Okay. And were you
I was
aware?
trying to look at the months that you were giving me.
Yeah, these are just December.
December, right.
Were you aware that IB Waste, that's a price for street sweeping or street sweeping is not contained in IB Waste contract with the city?
Object to the form of the question. It calls for a legal interpretation of the contract.
Yes.
Okay. So how did the city come to hire IB Waste for street sweeping?
It is I would say it's a professional service. When I consulted with, Chad consulted with me with legal, it would fall under a professional service. You're not buying anything, but.
Okay, so you made the determination that street sweeping fell under this contract to pay IB Waste?
No, it's a service that you can contract with.
Gotcha.
No.
So you contracted?
I don't believe it's in here, unless you found that it's in
No,
here.
I didn't find it in
okay.
there. So you're saying that you personally, as the mayor, entered into a contract with IB Waste for street sweeping?
There may be something that allows.
Question.
Yeah, I'd have to check through here because I thought there was something also that allowed for, not specifically street sweeping, but I'd have to see it. I'd have to read through the whole
Okay.
contract. There was a discussion between myself and the DCEO.
All right. And then the next two pages are charges for dumpsters at various sites in Kenner. And those, I believe, are all identified sites in the contract with IB Waste.
Okay.
And the next page is an outstanding invoice. The next page,
Are you on?
it's
Okay, wait. I'm gotta go more.
starts
All right, I
with
got you.
Site
3 yards roll
1462, Kenner Transfer Station. So it looks like there is $9,100 being charged for roll-off swaps at the Kenner Transfer Station.
Okay.
What is that for?
Object to the form of the question.
Yeah, you're asking me things that go through the finance department and the DCEO that handles this, so I'd have to refer to him.
So in section 4B2, it says contractors shall be solely responsible for all costs associated with the collection, removal, and hauling off of all solid waste and recyclable materials collected at the drop-off site.
I would have to see these invoices ahead of. Go ahead.
It's not a question. You just read it.
Okay. Were you under the understanding that the services that IB Waste was providing at the drop-off site were going to be included in its costs for residential and recycling, or was it going to be extra?
That's what it says in the contract. I'd have to see this invoice ahead of time. I've got to check with the CFO, and maybe she was able to clear this up yesterday, or check with the DCEO to give you an answer.
Okay.
It might be an extra service that we needed. I don't know.
All right. the next page is $9,100 being reflected that contaminated recycling is being taken from 1707 23rd Street in Kenner.
Okay.
What is that address?
I would assume that's the drop-off site.
Okay.
It's on 23rd Street, so I would assume that's 1707.
So it was my understanding that Ivy Waste was getting paid $1.90 to handle taking all of the recycling to a recycle facility.
Yes.
Okay. Why is Ivy Waste billing the city additionally for contaminated recycling at the drop-off site?
Object to the form of the question, calls for speculation.
I would have to check with the CFO to see what these invoices are for.
Okay, so as you sit here today, is this the first time you are learning that Ivy Waste is charging the city for dumping contaminated recycling at the River Birch landfill?
Object to the form of the question.
Yeah, I'm not going to agree to that because that's all speculation. I don't know what they're doing on contaminated recycling.
Well, they submitted a bill to the city for payment, right?
Right, but I thought you were going back to the video. This is, I'd have to check with the CFO to see what these charges are for. I mean, they're obviously documenting what they're for, but I would have to check and see why are we paying this.
Okay. So who are you going to check with for that?
The CFO.
And that is?
Liz, who you spoke
Ms.
to
Hare.
yesterday.
Okay. She had told me when I deposed her that the finance department doesn't go through the invoices to make sure that the amounts tied to the contract amounts, that's something that the department handles before they send it to the finance department. Is that your understanding?
Object to the extent it mischaracterizes the testimony.
Yes, and I did say also in the beginning of this, Chad Pitfield, I'd have to check with him, who's handling most of this.
So Chad Pitfield would be the person who signs off?
I think you'd get more information from him because he handles it every day.
All right. What was your understanding as to what, if anything, additional over the $1.90 per service charge Ivy Waste was to be paid for dealing with recycling under its contract with the city of Kenner?
Well, it wouldn't allow for that.
Okay. So then, if in fact these December bills were paid for contaminated recycling to Ivy Waste, you'd agree with me that Ivy Waste wasn't entitled to that money under its contract?
I'm not saying that. I'm going back to, again, the department who routes it to the finance department. We want to make sure that that there's some reasoning why why there's an extra charge on those invoices.
Okay. There then appears to be a series of pages of invoices for 30-yard roll-off carts at the Kenner Yard, 1707 23rd Street.
What page is that?
It's the last 3 to 7.
Okay.
And it's $50,750 of 30-yard roll-off charges at the drop-off site.
Okay.
I thought we read in section 4B2 that contractors shall be solely responsible for all costs associated with the collection, removal, and hauling off of all solid waste and recycled materials collected at the drop-off site. Was that consistent with your understanding that Ivy Waste was supposed to pay these charges, or was the city of Kenner supposed to be paying Ivy Waste for hauling off things from the drop-off site?
Objection is asked and answered, and it calls for a legal interpretation of the contract. I think you've testified you don't know.
I've said the same thing over and over again. It's just a different question.
Yep.
You're asking the same question on different invoices. The same answer is for all these situations.
I need to talk to Chad Pitfield about that.
I mean, I think either Chad Pitfield or the legal department at the time could probably clear it up for you. At this time, Ed Rapier is still the city attorney.
All right, I'll talk to Mr. Rapier about those invoices. Now, are you aware that, is the city of Kenner accepting residential trash at the drop-off site?
The resident has the option to bring throwaway material there, yes. That's what the drop-off site is for.
Did the city of Kenner obtain an LDEQ permit to operate a solid waste facility at 1707 Kenner?
Object to the form of the question.
We've checked with DEQ as of yesterday, and they don't have any issues to my understanding, but we will see what we need to do. If we haven't done something, we will make sure we get it done.
Okay. Who spoke with LDEQ yesterday?
It was not me, it was someone in my office, and I was told today by my CAO.
Okay. Do you know who in your office contacted LDEQ?
No.
Do you know what was...
It may have been Chad Pitfield. I'm assuming that's probably who it would be, since he's probably out there more days than anybody else.
Have you asked Mr. Chad Pitfield about whether or not Ivy Waste is dumping its recycling at the drop-off site?
No, I would have had no reason to ask him that.
I'm going to show you what I'm going to mark as Exhibit 78, which is a record I obtained from LDEQ that hasn't been produced in the litigation.
Has not been produced?
Has not. I found
Object
this.
to the use of any documents being used that, I don't know when you received this, but being used today, which haven't been produced and discovered.
It's a public document that I went online and found, and it's available for anybody that wants to look at LDEQ's records. And this is a DEQ debris site requirements. It's an email from Doug Dote. Who is that?
Emergency Operations Director.
Okay. And it's attached to it as the emergency debris site request form.
Okay.
And this looks like it was done in April of 19.
Okay.
And just so we're on the same page, there's a picture to this application.
Let's see where this is. Safe County storage located between Department of Fleet Management. Okay.
So my understanding is this is the site, the part that is in, sideways lines or vertical, not vertical, what do you call this? On an angle. Diagonal lines, thank you. That is the location of Kenner's drop site. Is that what that looks like to you?
I'm trying to get where okay, that's Williams. What's this? Is this shell lot? Oh, this is
You see the fuel?
Yeah, this has been built on since then.
See
Yes,
the
okay.
fuel lines are right below it?
Actually, this is not what we're using.
Okay. Where on this photograph in this exhibit 78 is where you all are using the drop site?
Look, I'm not perfect with this, but I'm pretty sure it's right in here because from the drop site, I believe you can see this, which would be the old treatment plant. This is a yard that's being used for, like, I believe, because this is the airport road, this is probably gravel. I'd have to go and make sure, but I'm pretty sure this is what we're using right here.
Gotcha. So right to the right of the diagonal lines.
I'd like to see a clearer picture, but it doesn't look like this is it.
And it's my understanding that as of today, the city of Kenner doesn't have a permit to operate a solid waste facility
Check to
at
the
that
form.
location?
That's been asked and answered.
Yeah, I answered that before. We've already checked with DEQ as of yesterday, and we were told we're okay.
Who told you at LDQ you were okay?
I already answered that.
I'm sorry, I missed
I
it.
haven't spoken to that person.
So you don't know who at LDQ said?
Right, I already answered that. The CEO told me this morning that DEQ does not have an issue with what we're doing.
Does not have an issue with what you're doing with the drop site?
The subject that you're talking about, right?
Specifically, did you all inform the LDEQ that recycling is being dumped on that facility on a weekly basis?
Object to the form of the question.
I wasn't.
I think he said he hasn't talked to the DEQ.
Right.
Patrick, I don't see how at all this is relevant to your breach of contract case. I'm trying to be patient and give you leeway, but at some point you got to talk about what we're here for today. I know you're trying to build something, but this, do you have anything that has to do with the breach of contract case, or is it all?
I'm just trying to figure, what is this supposed to be right here?
It's identified in your emergency drop-off site.
Now, it's identified as a storm debris removal staging area.
Okay, yeah, that.
Don't worry.
Okay. It's different.
Now, in addition to having a home in Kenner, it's my understanding you own several properties in Tangipahoa.
But I'd have to ask, what do you mean by several?
Okay. You own a townhouse in Tangipahoa.
Object to the form of the question. I don't have any idea how this relates to the breach of the contract case.
No, I do not.
Okay. I'm going to show you what I'm going to mark as Exhibit 79.
Can I expand on that?
Huh?
Are you Earl Bernhard Zahn III?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll show you what I'm marking as Exhibit 79, which appears to be a January 12, 2017.
Look, Patrick, I know quite well what happened here. Just ask the question, because this is personal, but go ahead.
Did you buy a townhouse in January of 2017, the same month you became mayor of the city of Kenner in Tangipahoa Parish?
I did.
Wait, let me object. Look, this has absolutely nothing to do with it. There's a statute that says, I'm trying to get the actual statute, that I can order him not to answer questions that have nothing to do with it. We've been here for 3 hours this afternoon. There's not been one case or one question relevant to your breach of contract case. Now you're asking him, you're trying to build an election smear campaign or something, and I'm going to instruct you not to answer. And if you want to get the judge on the phone, we can, because this has nothing to do with the case.
It's my client's position and our allegations that Ivy Waste obtained this contract with the city of Kenner in a backroom deal, and people received payments. Okay. And I am asking questions following up on information that I've obtained. In furtherance, that is our allegation, and that's what I'm asking questions
You have
about.
the petition with you?
I don't, but I've asserted a bad faith breach of contract claim.
In your petition, you talk about IV waste and backroom deals and all that. I haven't looked at it in a while, but you've alleged a breach of contract, and in order to get to a breach of contract, you have to prove a breach of the contract, and then you get into bad faith. We know this, the judge, that's what I argued, and he acknowledged what I said, but wanted to get this over with, so we don't have to do it twice.
Look, I'm on the last.
Well, no, but I'm going to instruct him not to answer it. We can go to the court on this. Unless you let me talk to him outside and see how this is possibly relevant. But I'm going to instruct, this is now we're harassing.
I want to know how this witness came into a lot of money to buy off real estate soon after IV Waste got the contract in the city of Kenner. I'm putting it clearly on the record. I want to know.
Okay. I'm going to instruct him not to answer until I can consult with him, because this has nothing to do with the lawsuit. You're videoing it. You're using this to try to help whatever you're doing politically This has nothing to do with the breach of contract case. You wanted these
I disagree.
depositions. You told the court you wanted these depositions to prove your breach of contract, and I haven't heard one thing today about that. So
I disagree.
No. Well,
I respectfully disagree.
that's fine. Well, he's not going to answer these questions. If you want to go to the judge, we can. Do you have
Okay,
anything
well-
relevant to the case?
Well, I'll ask the questions and we can proffer it so we can find out
Let
whether
me talk to him
or not.
outside. Let me step outside and consult with my client.
There's a document and exhibit on the table. I
No,
don't think
and
it's
I've instructed him
appropriate
not
for
to
you.
answer.
I
I'm
don't
trying to
think
make
it's
it so I don't have to come back.
I don't
If you let
think
me
it's-
talk to him, let me step outside and talk.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's appropriate for you to talk to a witness
Okay,
when
then
a
I'm instruct-
document is pending. I have a
instructing him
question.
not to answer.
On what basis?
That I don't know the code article. I have it in front of me. It's harassing and has absolutely nothing to do with this lawsuit. Absolutely nothing to do with it. And then there's a basis that I can instruct him not to answer questions.
So you're instructing the witness not to answer?
At this moment, once you're done, when we take a break, we'll talk, and then I'll come back and let you know. And it's Article 1444. I don't think that's it, but there's another one too.
That's fine. Go talk to him and come back and we decide we're going to
Can
ask
you
the
finish?
questions.
Is this it? Are we
No, I got several more questions about property.
related like this? Like
Yes,
the harassing,
absolutely.
non-relevant
No,
questions.
public, I want to ask this witness about public documents and a public record under his own name. I think I'm entitled to it.
Nothing about, this is it. There's not a whole another stack of documents. I'm just saying, we're getting close to the end.
We're getting close to the end.
Okay, off the record, the time is now 3:30.
I mean,
Back on the record, the time is now 3:36.
Back on the record. While this is absolutely 100% irrelevant and done to harass, badger, and trigger the witness, we will answer the questions. If you want to ask questions about this, he's happy to answer your questions.
Okay.
But I hope that everybody from your side understands that some of these questions are going to lead to very emotional and personal topics of the mayor that I hope we don't have to go there, but he's happy to answer.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not looking to get into your personal, if they're personal issues that are going to upset you. I just have some questions about the properties you bought.
okay.
Okay, so looking at Exhibit 79, this is a January 12, 2017 act of cash sale for what I believe is a townhouse in Tangipahoa.
It's not an active cash sale. You saying no mortgage?
Oh, what is this?
I'm
Did
looking
I
at
give you
the
the
right
wrong
one.
number? That's a deed. And behind it is a active cash sale.
It had a mortgage on it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, but you bought, in January of 2017, you bought a townhouse in Tangipahoa, is that accurate?
Correct.
It was for $100,000.
Unincorporated Hammond.
Hammond, all right, I apologize.
Unincorporated.
For $112,000.
Patrick, can we agree that I just have a running objection as to relevance? This
Yes.
is not even close to when Cindy Torres or anything like that was involved with the contract.
Yep.
I will maintain a continuous objection and I'll withdraw it if you ask anything relevant about this case.
Fair enough. I agree. I'm going to mark as Exhibit 80. Mark it 80A, December 10, 2020. Cash sale of another piece of property in Tangipahoa. I want to ask you about that.
I just have an issue with cash sale because they both have mortgages on them.
Well, I don't object to the mischaracterization
Yeah,
of the
and
transaction.
it sounds like I paid cash and I did not.
Yeah, and I apologize. The reason I use the term cash sale because Exhibit 80 has attached to it a document that is titled cash sale. But I wasn't trying to imply anything other than it's titled cash sale. What is this piece of property that you bought in December of 2020?
It's a home in the city of Ponchatoula.
Okay. And is this a second home for you?
It's a home for my kids.
Okay. So you don't reside there?
No.
All right, and you said that had a mortgage?
They both had a mortgage.
Okay. The townhouse, well, let me see this. So I'm gonna mark it as Exhibit 81. This is a document that's titled mortgage, and I believe this is a that's the wrong document. Wrong document. Listen to that. This is cancellation. Did I give you a cancellation of a mortgage? I might have given you the wrong one.
You gave me something. Not sure. I can't read that small print.
All right, let's there we go. Give another exhibit sticker, Connie.
Oh, sure.
So this one I'll mark as number 83. This is a mortgage. You mentioned that both the properties had mortgages, so take a look at Exhibit 83.
One still has a mortgage.
So this is the mortgage, Exhibit 83, for the house you purchased in December of 2020?
I can't read this print, Matthew.
Okay.
I mean, if that's what...
Let's see if I can help you read it.
If it says Ponchatoula, then that's what it is.
A lot of pages have gotten out of whack.
Mayor, why don't you explain the two houses that he's...
I'm waiting for him to get to a point, but should I do it now?
Yeah, do you want him to address the two houses that he
he's-
owns? He's happy to address the two houses that he owns, besides shoveling through a bunch of documents.
All right, well,
Well, I don't know if he's got something else.
I did all this research. Let me...
Just tell him, Mayor, explain the two houses.
So I had a trailer before the flood of whatever that April flood was back in 2016, 2017. The trailer was paid for by State Farm. The extra dividends were used to purchase the home which I had a mortgage on, which was not a cash sale, for the townhouse. My children to live in it. My son was living in a dorm at the time at Southeastern. My daughter was then going to Southeastern. Her graduations will reflect when she was going at this time of the year, right? For the next semester. So she went there. They were in the townhouse until this house right here, right before this house was purchased. I'm sorry, this house was purchased because the townhouse was going down a little bit in the surroundings. So we decided, my wife and I decided to purchase something else to move them into. We purchased the house in Ponchatoula, put this one up for sale on a Thursday, and I believe on Monday night it burned to the ground. That's why it's personal, and I'd rather not go any further than that with the townhouse. Because when your child, do you have a daughter? You have a child?
I do.
When she calls you screaming, crying on the phone that she's burning up or about to burn in the garage, I'm not going to talk about it anymore.
I understand. So the funds that you used to pay off the townhouse came from the fire proceeds?
Right.
Insurance proceeds from the fire?
Absolutely.
Fair enough. And the money you used as the down payment on the second house in Ponchatoula, where did those funds come
You're
from?
continuing to get personal, and I'll answer it with this. My father passed away in 2017, October.
So your dad left you the money in his succession?
There's inheritance money.
So you used inheritance money to buy that house?
You're going into the very personal. I used inheritance.
You haven't accepted anything of value from IV Waste?
Been much easier for you to ask me that earlier. No.
Do you know whether Nikki Nicolosi has received anything of value from IV Waste?
You're asking. Right. You're asking me something I have no idea of.
Okay. In your conversations with your friend Nikki Nicolosi, had he mentioned to you that he took the Fifth Amendment against, he had served his right of Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination when we tried to ask him questions concerning IV Waste and the City of Kenner contract.
I understand that he took the Fifth Amendment on everything.
Have you spoken to him about that?
Mm-hmm.
What did he say?
What I just told you, he took the Fifth Amendment on everything. I said, that's your business.
Did you ask him why he was taking the
That's
Fifth?
not, Patrick, that's not my business. This is not your business, and that's not my business.
Fair enough. Okay. Any other questions? I think we're good.
You want to read and sign everything? Mayor, they'll send a copy to your, he did it already?
This is the conclusion of the videotaped deposition. We're going off the record. The time is 3:45.